right, welcome back to the Shaman Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Chenvert, and today with me we have Isa Laura Maria, and she is a spiritual intuitive energy medicine practitioner. She's an author of the Amazon best-selling memoir First Light. Her work centers around helping people return to their bodies and their inner authority through emotional healing and spiritual awakening. Thanks for being here today, Isa.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's a pleasure.
And before we get into your story, why don't you let people know a little bit about more about what you do today while working with others or just in general?
Okay. Yeah, what I do today is I basically work as a channel and a healer, and I do a lot of different things. I work as a medium, I do intuitive readings, I do shamanic energy medicine, and I work with psychological integration. I do deep trauma work with people. And honestly, my whole life, I've just felt a burning passion to help everything to heal. Like there's just been this passion of like, how can I had to heal myself, and then how can I help everything, the earth, animals, people, and all of consciousness, to come back into together in that weave of wholeness. And so I see private clients, and I also teach through what I call integrating infinity, which is my body of work that includes these topics.
Nice.
And I would say that the deeper baseline of the work is spiritual awakening, really helping people to remember who you truly are, who we truly are as light, as the divine incarnate, as spirit. That's really the baseline of everything that I do, and the deep, deep passion.
Nice. And yeah, and especially the trauma work and stuff is super important these days. I try to focus a lot on that as myself with people. So, what got you to that point? I mean, did you grow up with these kind of principles and practices around you? Like, did you have like a witchy aunt who like lived in the woods and did these things, or were your parents open-minded? Like, what was your childhood like, and what brought you into this?
I wish. I had the opposite. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home in the deep South, in the Bible Belt, and very rural area. And everyone around me was just deeply ingrained in that religiosity. And I, as a child, I was profoundly psychic and sensitive, of course, to, everything. And I just thought everyone was like that. I had to sort of hide that. I couldn't share what I was seeing and hearing. I was seeing spirits as a child, and I would see energy, and I would know things. And but I knew that if I shared that, I would have gotten in trouble, like really severe trouble. Like I would have been probably locked up, because that in my family system was taboo. That was like a really bad thing in that system. And so I really kept that in. I kept that quiet, but I always had, as a child, this burning connection and love for what I call the divine, spirit. That I knew that I had come from that, and that I wasn't just the experiences or my body. Like I knew that this really wasn't my first home, literally. And I just kept that underground and really quiet, to stay safe. And during that time, I was experiencing very horrific trauma, very severe trauma my entire young years, until I was about 21 years old. And we might, it might come up later that we go more into that. But it was at that point where I became disabled actually in my late teens. And I I tried everything. You know, that was the turning point where I was disabled. I had every illness in the book. I had all these weird mystery illnesses and chronic fatigue, and I was allergic to literally everything. I couldn't eat. And I had a spinal disability, and I tried all the medical, like every medical modality that I could find. And they couldn't find anything. They had no explanation for any of my pain, especially the spinal disability. And I remember this moment I think I was 20 or something. And it was like, you ever have those moments where like the light bulb just goes off? Like you
Mm.
just have an aha, I call it an aha moment where the light bulb goes off. And I just had the thought that came in and it said, I have to heal myself. I didn't even know what that meant. You know, I had been indoctrined and you always need doctors and medical care. And those are wonderful things as they're needed and appropriate. But what I needed was shamanic and energy medicine and a deeper spirit medicine. And that led me on a very long journey to find finally I was delivered to my teacher several years later. I was driving cross country I wasn't driving, I was being driven. I had to lay down because I could not sit and I could not drive a car. I couldn't even hold a coffee cup because the spinal pain I felt shooting down my body and my leg and my back was like fire. And so I was driven literally cross country from North Carolina to Seattle, Washington, and landed there. And you know how the universe is so magical. I found it to be extremely benevolent. And what happened was that synchronicity where I get to Seattle and I meet someone in a bookstore, and they basically become one of my dearest friends. And then they say to me, you must see this healer. And that wasn't even in my framework. Like I was from the South, the religion, and I was like, okay. But some part of my soul knew all of this, like remembered, like knew that was good. That's what I needed to do. I was very open. I was never like boxed in or judgmental about anything. I was just always really open. And I believe that openness really helped me to begin to heal and to find the healing through, at first, my mentor. And then I was taken to this healer, literally driven to the healer. Her name is Lita Rose. She's not in the body any longer. And basically, that was the beginning of my new life. And I ended up writing a book about this healing and how I healed myself and how others can do that. And it has much more of that story. I'll pause because it's a long story.
Oh no, it's yeah.
Yeah.
What what modality was she using on you?
Well, the first moment I walked in the door, she channeled. I didn't even know what channeling was. And she sat in the big chair. She was a very beautiful Amazon 6 foot woman. And I'd never seen anything like this woman. And she sat down and she just said, I'm going to leave my body and there will be a guide coming in. And I was just like, okay. I didn't even know what it was cognitively, but some part of my soul knew what it was and was extremely comfortable with that. And so this Pleiadian being came into her body. I felt the entrance of the being into her body. Her voice changed, became masculine, and with an accent. And the modality she first used on me was channeling. And as she began to channel, I had a profound spiritual awakening experience where I felt the frequency of the Pleiadian being and I felt like it was home,
Hmm.
like it was like home for me. And this wasn't like in my head, it was like in my body. And my body started shaking uncontrollably. I was just shaking on, and I was sobbing, just sobbing. Kind of relief, but grief and relief and joy and all of it just. And as this happened, I didn't know understand this till after the event. I was coming into my body. My spirit had been out for 22 years. I was 22 years old, and I had not once ever been in my body.
Hmm.
And I felt my spirit descend in coming in like layers into my body as I shook and sobbed. And this was sort of the beginning of, my new life and many other things. But it was channeling that she utilized at first. And that was really the doorway. It opened the doorway. And then at that moment, I, from that moment forward, I literally became her apprentice. We just had a knowing that we were, it felt like destiny.
Hmm.
It was destiny. And we felt that in our beings, she and I. And it was just like, let's go. And I began immediately, like within days, to apprentice with her. And the modalities that she and I utilized to heal myself were shamanic energy medicine. We immediately started the work with shamanic energy medicine that she would do on me and teach me, and channeling both the energy and the wisdom and the knowledge that was coming in. So it was really those two in the beginning.
Yeah.
Then we did more modalities as we went along. Those were the first ones.
Yeah, that's interesting because the channeling piece, I don't want to say it's new to me, but it's something that's been coming up more in my training and learning it and stuff like that versus before I always thought channelers were just they just bring in a being, that being talks and gives out information, and then that's the end of it, right? I never would have thought about channeling as also a healing, a way of healing and having them bring in the energy and stuff like that as well. So it's been a new thing I've been coming across lately myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you named that just now, because I channel, that's part of what I do. And I find that the energy that comes through, whether it's my higher self or I'm what I call incorporating a guide, either that energy that moves through for the whoever it's for, the place, the person, is profoundly healing. Sometimes it's just the energy, and I can feel when that energy comes through me for others, it's helping them to heal. That energy is healing and bringing the healing. And sometimes the words they're powerful, but I would say not always the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and so when your body was shaking and your soul was coming back in, I've seen this happen with some folks I've worked with the shaking when we're working with the medicine and just like trying to clear out things. I always kind of take it meaning it's like the physical reaction of clearing out the imprints or anything that's just stuck, like the stuck energy that needs to move. Do you think that was also happening, or was it just more the soul coming back in? But it kind of feels like it was the soul's coming in, but making room and pushing things that were in the way.
Absolutely, 100%. That's right. It was all of it. It was me coming in, the soul coming in. And then as I came in, all that what I call heavy energy, the heavy debris, is just leaving. I mean, not all of it, but
Yeah.
it's the beginning of that layer, that first layer that began to shake out. And also there's an integration in that was happening, right? Yeah, all of those things. That's right.
And so what was that like when she was done? You're done shaking, did you realize at that moment your soul was coming back into your body, or was that kind of later on after you had time to think about it? Were you still in physical pain on the spine? Like, what was the moment of like, besides shaking and having that visceral reaction to what she was doing, did you, after the session, be like, oh no, this really does work? And like, was your back better, your spine fixed? Like, how were you feeling afterwards?
I felt irrevocably changed.
Mm,
I felt like I had come home, like I'd been running my whole life from myself, but I didn't realize it until that moment. And in that moment, it was like, wow. I was just like awe. It was like, I'm home. And it was scary. I felt scared afterwards because I was in my body with horrific memory.
mm,
And I didn't know all the details of that because that came through and released as flashbacks over time later. But I was in a body that had stored terrible things. And I felt terrified and I felt bliss. I felt everything, Jeremy. I felt excited. I felt relief. And my back pain it still burned. That was only like a knowing, like that was the beginning of the medicine, but it took years
mm.
for my back to repair itself because I didn't know at that moment. I mean, I discovered at that moment that my spinal disability was from the trauma.
Yeah.
And that took years. But as I worked with her from the very beginning, there was a relief that started to happen instantly. You know how things happen in the realm of spirit first,
Mm,
way out in consciousness. And then it comes through all the layers of our energy body, our aura, right? The light body. And then it hits matter. Well, I could feel that it had started out here. It was like the feeling.
mm.
And it was just a knowing of rightness. Like there was no question in me that I had to continue with this, that this was my destiny. It was just like a direct knowing in my body. So, yeah, it took years, but I started to get some relief, kind of like you could think of it as like in the soul, like, oh, like you're not feeling so depressed. You're not feeling, because I was very suicidal
Mm,
when I met her from the trauma. That like that level of pain was taking me to the edge of being able to stay in my body. And there was just like that relief. And then in time, the back started to let up over time. And I would say that that's a very rare experience, meaning that not most people don't have that perhaps come in. I don't want people to think things take that long.
Well, but it's important
Yeah,
too because sometimes it does, right? And a lot
sometimes
of
it
people
does.
don't tie in trauma with physical pain. They don't think about the impact that that has on the body. And sometimes it takes a while to clear that trauma. Sometimes it's quick. Like I have worked on backs myself, and sometimes after one session, the pain is gone and they feel great. Sometimes it's after a couple. You never really know until you start working with the person because or at least me, when I'm working with someone, I don't know how deep it truly goes. And sometimes the person doesn't either because it kind of erased those memories. They push them to the side. They've no longer thought about it. They don't consider that it never happened to them. And sometimes it's perceived trauma too, where it's not really an act that happened, it's their interpretation over something that happened that made it real for them. Even though it's something completely not true in reality. But for them, it was their reality. And so they have all this trauma, which brings in a bunch of emotions, puts imprints, and then we call them affinities in my lineage, where, it's just these massive, lack of a better word, like lumps of dark energy that's just blocking your energy from flowing, which then causes physical ailment, depression, anxiety, all the good stuff. And, but sometimes it's also genetic. It's
Yeah.
being able to discern the two. It's not always a one for one swap out.
Totally true. And sometimes, like you just named, it's hereditary. You've inherited it from your ancestors. And sometimes it's other lifetimes that
Yep.
you have finished or processed. You're right. It's so true.
And
Yeah,
then you got to get deeper and you got to go further.
exactly. That's right. You got to go, what else is possible here? What else might this be? Yeah.
And I believe it's all possible to heal it and work through it, but it is important for people to know that it just sometimes it takes more time than we would like it to. It's not always a quick fix. It's not always a one and done session.
Yeah.
Some people it is, some people it's not. It really depends on what's going on in their field and like we said, how deep does it go? Like it's might
Yeah.
not be this lifetime.
That's right. It's totally true. And I can say that it's a miracle that I was healed. And it took everything I had. It took every strength, every surrender that I had to stay the journey to that. That's the truth.
So how did that affect, this happens to you, you've met a healer, you're coming from this religious background from the South.
Mhm.
I'm sure there was a lot of mixed emotions just from that because and I kind of have the same not complete story but family kind of story. I have a lot of family from like Georgia, Louisiana, the deep South where we had more drive-through liquor stores than stoplights when we used to visit my grandmother back in the day. It's that Bible Belt, and there's nothing wrong with religion. I don't want to put it that way, but there is that belief that only their God can help you and everything else is evil. When I could argue, well, where do you think this stuff came from? It all came from source. It's all the same energy. It's just you're either praying for it or you've learned how to tap into it. And it's kind of the same thing. I mean, it's just a different approach. So, I mean, how did that,
Mhm.
I guess, impact you mentally, spiritual awakening wise, family
Mhm.
relationships?
Mhm. I would say that before I met my teacher, so I was in the pain, I was disabled. I had already exited that culture.
Hmm.
By the when I was 17, just turning 18, I left. I left the South. Well, let's say this, I went to university, so I left my home. And like I said, I was running because at the time I had what that we call in psychology conscious amnesia. I had blocked everything that had happened to me, but I was running. I was running as fast as I could to escape. And so I had already left that in my mind when I entered university in North Carolina. And at that point, I would say, and then I ended up, of course, running to Europe for a while there, and then to the West Coast. And by that time, I had exited that fully. I had just completely let that go, that was not my reality, that I respected my family and I love my family, but that wasn't my truth.
Hmm.
That religion, organized religion was not the truth for me. Spirituality was the truth for me. And I let it all be there as okay together, right? Um, my relationship with my family, after I met my teacher and I did a lot of healing work, um, I went back to North Carolina in my 20s, and I did often what abused people do, survivors. They go back and they speak the truth
Mhm.
and they see if it will be received. And I did that in the most loving, kind way with no blame that I could imagine. And I would say that that was not received, that was beyond their paradigm. And that was not, they just denied, like, no, you're making it up. I was blamed for that, which is very common
Yeah,
with people who have been victims of abuse. And so from that point forward, I did everything I could to heal myself also psychologically, not just spiritually. So I was working on the spiritual level profoundly, but I was equally working in the psychological domain. And I just basically dedicated my life to healing that. And I had to let my family go, meaning I still speak with them. I love them, but I had to keep a distance. I had to find where could I be with them and how that was still okay for me and not harming me or re-injuring me. And that has taken me years to kind of sort through that, honestly. But I really let all that go. And I feel like that sweet spot over time
nice.
with
It's
respect. Yeah.
it's interesting you bring that up because I literally just got off with a client right before our interview, and same kind of thing with her family. And it's like when we go through this healing process, sometimes we have to let people go who are not good for us because it's just going to bring everything back again. And if we're not ready for that, we can get back into those same stories, those same trigger moments, all of that stuff. And then it gets to a point where it's like, how much of these people are you willing to allow back in and how? So it's like, what is enough? I've had some clients who are like, oh, I only see my family, once a year on Christmas. They never reach out otherwise. I never check. Okay, well, is that enough for you? If that's not, then say something. If they're not willing to listen and understand and commit to changing, now you need to make a decision. If that's not enough for you, are you willing to let them go until it is good for them to reach back out? Like, what is going to be enough for you? You have to do what's right for you because when you're healing yourself, you have to be selfish. It's about you. It's not all about you, but it starts with you.
Absolutely. Like we really have to love ourselves. I had to learn how to love myself, because I take care of everyone else,
Mhm.
which is often the case with abused people and people who go through trauma is they're geared and they have to take care of other in order to survive. And so we really have to learn, we have to put ourselves first and learn how to love ourselves and learn our boundaries, right? Like what's okay, what's not okay, and how do we protect our heart? And that's a lot of the work that I do with people because I had to walk it. I had to really, really walk that. And there's a thing I do, Jeremy, this might help some people, I don't know. But what I came to was a realization that my family, they're just souls in a body. We
Mhm.
all made this agreement. I have an experience as an intuitive where I see my experience is that we have a design, a soul design. And we've all come in, we've designed sort of who our parents are and what we're going to experience. And so I don't really experience my family as my family so much. I experience them as souls whom I love and I respect and I pray for them just like I mean, not religiously, but like I pray in the shamanic way I pray. And I wish them all goodness, but that helped create detachment for me and that feels true for me, like the truth, you know. How can I best love myself and them, honoring their soul's destiny
Yeah.
and my own?
And that's a hard thing though, I think for everyone to look at it that way too. Because I tried the same thing where it's, we're here for a reason. We're also here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to fix things that maybe we didn't get to fix before. We do have agreements with others, and maybe we come into a family and we have to go through a really bad patch and be the person who gets whipped on in order to change the family later on, down the future. But it's like, did I really sign up for this? It's like, is this something I really would have signed up for? Is to be abused or be raped or be beaten by my father or my uncle or my mother in order to heal the family lineage? And it's a hard concept to grasp, especially in the very beginning. The more you get into the work and you truly start seeing how things can play out, but I think that's very hard for a lot of people to, at least it was for me. I'm not sure about you, but in the beginning, that was very hard for me to accept.
Yeah, I understand. And I'm glad you're naming that because I think that's so hard for most people. I'm not sure why that wasn't hard for me. Partly because I lived in the realm of spirit. I
Mm,
wasn't even in my body, and I had direct experience regularly of this. This was just my experience. I could see the design, I could see what I had chosen, and it wasn't like for the sake of being raped or abused or whatever. It was for many other reasons of evolution and transformation. And it was, in a way, the ultimate test and the ultimate transformations. I'll just speak for myself so that I can serve consciousness in the best, most profound way possible. If I had not gone through what I did, there's no way I could do what I do today. Because when people come to me, I know what it's like to walk through hell, to be in hell and want to die for years and years and years, but then to connect, through spirit and to come through that. And that's not it's not like, oh, I'm so great or anything.
mm,
It's just like a basic reality.
yeah.
And if we don't actually walk that, we don't have the same, like, there's things I haven't walked that I wouldn't have the same ability, right? To be able to help someone through. And so you're right. It's it is plain hard to be with that concept, but I would say there may come a time when you have a direct experience of that. And when that happens, it's easier.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not arguing with that principle at all. I truly
Yeah.
believe in it too. And
Yeah.
you're right too. It's like I work mainly I work with everybody, but I try to focus my work on like veterans and first responders because that's what I am. I had PTSD. I worked through my stuff, and for me, the shamanic work is what helped me get through all that as well. And so that's what I like to focus on because I have that experience and it makes sense. Like, yes, I could help somebody who's been raped or abused, but I've never been raped or abused. So it's harder to fully understand where that person's coming from if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I totally agree, and that makes sense. This is what I went through, this is what I understand. Yes, you have a wider range toolbox, but you have more ability in the areas that you've been through because you truly understand what it's been like.
Yeah.
And that is important, I feel, for when people are trying to find a practitioner, healer, whatever label you want to put on it. It's find the person who's been through this similar situations as you, because their medicine is going to be a lot stronger in that area than somebody
Yeah.
who just took a weekend seminar and became attuned in energy work.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really different situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I think that kind of ties into is you had a video out on your YouTube and it talked about fear versus intuition. And I see that, and I think I even have it myself a lot where it's like, how much is this intuition telling me not to do something or telling me to do something versus
Mm.
my own fear of whether I should do it or not do it. And I was just kind of hoping you could elaborate a little bit more on, your video and what you meant by how people can discern from true fear versus attunement and maybe just fear of the action, not attunement, but intuition, excuse me.
Huh? Okay, yeah, it's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can feel really similar. Like fear can tell you to do something, but intuition can tell you the same thing.
Mhm.
So, what I've found, and I've had to work with this a lot to learn my own discernment, is I found that when we're coming from our intuition, it's often more quiet. It's often deep in the body, like what I call a direct knowing. Like you can sometimes just get that sense, like an instinct, or you may feel it literally, like in your body, in your belly, or your heart. And fear, when we're in fear, we have a tendency for our to feel, if you just tune in and close your eyes to discern, when you're in fear, there's a little bit of a frenetic, like, oh, there's all this kind of little, just a very low level, like frenetic energy. And I found our energy goes up often, like somehow the mind is involved, right? So sometimes we get here and there can be more like thinking, and you can feel that it's coming kind of from the mind or the head. And when we're in our intuition, it's usually calm. There's usually peace. We might feel like we might get intuition. Let's just make up something like, I'm to go hike up that mountain, right? I got intuition. I need to do this. Go hike up that mountain. And it feels like direct knowing, like it's almost like you're being pulled. Sometimes you just get up and do something and you don't think about it. You just go do that thing. It's like that intuition. We're sort of pulled almost from the umbilicus, just, oh, okay. We still might have a little bit of fear because climbing that mountain might be like, ooh, can I really do that? Or what's going to happen? But we can feel the difference. It's like there's a landing with intuition where we're sort of landed in our core, down in the body in the center. We can kind of feel it. And then if we're in the fear instead, we're a little more busy, you know, a little wobbly, not so peaceful, thinking like these are just some parameters. So I find what helps us discern is quieting the mind. It could just be 2 minutes or 5 minutes or more, but I recommend that when we're not clear, we sit and we hold that question, right? And then just allow all the thought to calm. And I call it resting the head in the heart. Just let the head just kind of like you're walking down a ladder,
Hmm.
step down the ladder from the head, and then you step into your heart. You can just breathe some breaths, look around the room, and then ask that question that you have that you want the answer to, right? And this is I find this to be a lovely, simple technique to come into quieting the mind. And when we quiet the mind and we rest in the heart, then we can feel that intuition, which is quieter, it's more subtle, right? And we can sense it. Remember, it may not speak in a lot of words like normal language. It might be a picture,
Hmm.
you know, like you might see an image of the place you need to go, or you might just hear one word, person's name, or whatever, a time or something, a day. So you're allowing intuition to speak to you in its language, pictures, dreams, a phrase, a word, or sensation. Maybe you imagine doing that thing and you see how you feel and you let your body show you, right? Oh, wow, I expanded, I'm relaxed. These are some, or I contracted, and then that would give you the opposite.
Hmm.
These are some really great tools. Does that give a little more?
Yeah, I think it was important for people to understand too. And I guess while you were talking, the question came up in my mind was like, would you think that intuition is the same or maybe just similar to as being like spirit led, like getting messages from spirit, your higher self, or your guides, because sometimes I've had those moments where, things come through and it's like, what is this about? And then when I go do the thing that came through, it's exactly what I needed to do in that moment. But to me, that didn't necessarily feel like intuition, but it seems like it's kind of similar.
To me, it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's my experience of it as well, is that intuition's kind of broad.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's from our higher self, sometimes it's from our team of guides, right? And we're being guided. That's right. But we're accessing, I would say, just the bandwidth of who we are, the vastness of who we are, right? Which includes our guidance and our higher self. So I use it in the same way, like to be the
Okay.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that feels right too. Because I've had plenty of like one example I give all the time was summer of 2019. All of a sudden, I knew I had to move. Like even my wife was like, "Why are you acting so crazy?" I was like, "I don't know. We need to move. Don't know what the hell is going on. We just need to move. We need more space. We need more property. We need to move." We got into this house in September of that year, and then COVID happened in March. And it was like, oh, I have to stay home from work now in this place. Okay. Didn't understand it in the moment, but it made sense later
Yeah.
on.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful trusting.
I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I had a choice. That was the crazy
Yeah.
thing was like my anxiety was picking up. Like I was just very, very
Yeah.
adamant. And it wasn't even like some other messages I might get from spirit or my guides where
Yeah.
they come through and you're like, oh, okay, I understand what you want. This one was just the
Hmm.
sense of urgency I had never felt before.
Yeah.
And that's why I was kind of like, I don't feel like I made it from a place of fear, but with that anxiety, it almost like it was coming from a place of fear without knowing why.
Hmm. Exactly. I love it when it's that clear. Sometimes it's like a pressure,
Yeah,
like like you're pushed. You're feeling sort of pushed when you're really connected to source, spirit, and you're getting that kind of guidance. It's undeniable. Like you can't not do it.
yeah. I mean, that's one reason I even got into this work was
Yeah.
life was falling apart, about to get divorced, like not working on myself, not working on my issues, and like shamanism's just the word shamanism just kept showing up in random places like Amazon best reading, Facebook ads for classes, and I'm like, what is going on? And finally I got
Mm.
a book, started reading, got more understanding, took a course, and it just kept going from there. And it was like, all right, now I get why that happened. But it was never in my feed
Yeah.
before or anything. It just kept showing up out of
Wow.
nowhere.
I love the magic of the universe. It truly is magical. when we really open and listen, there is so much support happening all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah, it drives you nuts sometimes, but it's amazing.
Right, right. It can be a lot. It can be hard. Yeah, it can be really hard to discern and to follow sometimes. Absolutely.
And then, so when you're working with people, and I guess they're having their spiritual awakening, if you will, and they feel like they're going crazy, what advice do you give someone who might just be starting out and, doesn't understand what's going on? Things are lining up in ways they can't understand. They feel
Yeah.
like they're being guided to something, but they don't know exactly what, because there's so much information out there, right? There's, I mean, even the word shamanism now, it's when I was looking around, I mean, Celtic shamanism, Nordic shamanism, core shamanism, South American shaman, like there's so many different branches, and yeah, they all kind of do the same thing, but they have different ties to different things. And that's just shamanism. Then you got 20 different modalities of Reiki. And then you have other quantum healers or quantum, people put the word quantum into things just to make it more newer, I guess. And they're trying to understand what it is that they need to do and how or why even, what kind of advice do you give someone just starting?
Yeah. I tell them that it's not about the modality or the techniques, none of it. It's really about coming into what I call presence for each of us. And what I mean by that is I help and direct people to come clearly into their body. As many people have different levels of dissociation, very subtle. So I really work with anchoring and orienting people through the body and their awakening. So they're not, we're transcending, yes, but my experience is we're transcending by coming in, descending into the body and expanding beyond. But we include the body, right? We're not up and out anymore. It's not my experience. We're down and beyond and everywhere in infinity. And so I guide people, I offer them, pointers and techniques and the transmission of doing that
Hmm.
and giving them an anchor point through the body, but expanded into what I call the light body. And then I help them to understand themselves as light. I work help them to people to understand themselves as the light body that we are, the light, the spirit, and that our mind, our emotions, our body is within our consciousness, that all of this is within our consciousness, our vast beingness. And I work to also help people to realize that we can become sometimes more sensitive in the awakening. We start to feel more. Sometimes things feel like they might be falling apart.
Hmm.
All of a sudden we're like feeling emotions and having memories, and that I just remind people that that's not permanent. That's just as you're awakening and healing, all this material is loosening. All that's been stored in the light body and the physical body is relaxing, it's loosening, it's starting to release. And more light is coming in and activating what we are, right? Which is light,
Hmm.
consciousness. And so I really help people to recognize that they're not truly falling apart. They're not regressing, they're not going backwards, but really they're incorporating more of who they are, and that these uncomfortablenesses, I'm not sure if that's a word, these uncomfortabilities or whatever these are, these states are temporary. It's just like a temporary little bump in the
Mhm.
road, and that they're actually bringing more of what the person wants to come into, more the capacity to have peace, to have their dreams fulfilled, to manifest what they want in life, to have abundance. These things need to be changed and transformed for that to happen. And so I guess I give a framework, a new framework of all of that. And I encourage people to go slowly, to ground to Mother Earth daily, to feel their bodies, really focusing on that, and really to be good to themselves. I do a lot of work to help people love themselves and be kind to themselves like they would to a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's two things like the wave parts of, things coming up. I kind of consider that like almost like the purging process. Like these things have to come up so that you can release them. By releasing them, it allows more of your energy to come back, or maybe like in your case, your soul coming back. Sometimes it is parts of people's soul that needs to come back as well. And it's just, you have to make room. Like we have to clear the field in order for your energy to take over again, because we all have so many things that just aren't ours anymore, or maybe they never were ours, and it's just they're just stuck within our energy, and that, like we mentioned earlier, that can make us sick, that can give us pain, emotional problems, all those disorders that we can throw out into the wild can come from that, and it's a purging process of just letting it go. And sometimes it's not fun to do that, for sure. And then, yeah, treating ourselves like children. I mean, it goes back to when you were talking about boundaries earlier. It's not just setting boundaries for others, it's also putting those same boundaries on you. Would you talk to someone the way you're talking to yourself right now in the mirror? Like, if you wouldn't, then why are you doing it to yourself? Set that boundary for yourself as well. If you're not going to let your uncle talk to you like that, then you don't talk to yourself that way too. And just, it helps complete it and make that, even that childhood version of yourself that you're trying to heal a little bit more protected.
Absolutely. And I love that you named that earlier piece about um getting it all out, purging. You said purging. I call that releasing the world. Just releasing the world, all the imprints, the
Yeah,
structures, the habits, the conditioning each of us have absorbed from world programming. And that's shamanism right there,
yeah,
releasing that and clearing that out. And in my lineage, Toltec shamanism, we do recapitulation of that to clear the world out, to stop the world, and to really, we're reclaiming ourselves, the truth of our spirit. Yeah.
yes,
And you're right, 100% love, 100% making those boundaries of like what's okay and how it's okay to be with ourselves. Yeah.
yeah. And it's a hard thing, like I said, with that programming. I mean, everything is programming us. Like the TVs are telling us, if we drink this beer, we buy this car, we do this, we do that, women are going to love us as men. If we do this as a woman, that's what we're supposed to do. Or, that's basic programming. And then you got the family programming of, I grew up in a time where my father basically said, if you're going to cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about. That was the programming, right? And that's programming I had to break for my own sons. And our, maybe it's a woman's place is only in the kitchen, not supposed to be working. Those kind of programmings are just the materialism of getting 20 credit cards so that you can take a trip to Disneyland once a year, spend all your time paying it off just to do it again, versus something simple that you can afford and still enjoy time with your family. We live in so many different programs that it can be overwhelming just to break the social programming. And now we have the programs that we put on ourselves from not just this life, but many past lives before that we don't even know about, programming that we didn't even choose in this
Mhm.
life, or the family programming that's come down the ancestral line and shows up as a burden. It's just,
Yeah.
it can be very overwhelming sometimes.
It can be very overwhelming. And I say often what you're saying, which is we're here to unburden ourselves. It's not so much about becoming someone new, it's about releasing what's on us and in us and just unburdening, getting that stuff out and off of us because our true nature is right here, but it's often buried from the world. And I think that's the beauty of shamanism. It really, all across all cultures, shamanism is geared to really help us reclaim the
Mm.
truth of who we are, our inner power, our inner truth, and be that.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is it's easy. It's not a hard thing to learn.
Mm,
And we were talking about this before the recording. It's you don't have to learn these tools and techniques in order to go save the world and work on everybody else. Learn these tools and techniques to work on yourself. When you do that, everything will ripple around you. Others are going to get part of that healing that you're doing on yourself. When you do a journey to release a family burden, for example, it's not just you that's getting released from that burden, it's all those generations before and after you now. Working on yourself makes it so that you're not leaving any burdens around for your children or your children's children. It's that principle of working on yourself heals 7 generations back, 7 generations ahead. And even starting at simple place of just learning how to do journey work. You don't necessarily need to learn how to mess with people's energies field and clear chakras or clear imprint. You can do 99% of all that work with journey
mhm,
work on yourself by working with your guides and
mhm.
those realms.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Just we've forgotten the knowledge basically. Like
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes our minds make it more difficult than it is. We think we have to do it all instead of just honing in on that one thing and giving it our time and our energy. Yeah.
or going into the family thing again, it's a lot of people work on themselves. And then instantly it's like, oh, let me go heal my family. Well, they might not be ready for that yet or want it because, as you mentioned, everyone's here on their own journey doing their own thing. And so
Oh,
I find that can also be an issue with family where they might accept that you're doing it on yourself, but then you come around, Christmas, holidays, maybe you live closer and it's more often, and you're constantly telling them what they're doing wrong, trying to fix them, and they're not open to it.
yeah, that doesn't work well. I call it, I say just stay in your own lane. Just stay in your own lane. Right?
Yeah, and that's a hard thing for people to realize too. Or, I mean, I had one student one who was like meeting random people and trying to tell them how they're going to help them and all that. I'm like, they might not be ready for that, man. Just let the conversation happen. If they're interested, they'll come back to you. But you
Yeah.
can't force healing on people. Like it doesn't work that way. Or I've had family members reach out to me because their wife or their husband said they should work with me. And I'm like, well, what do you want? Like, because I'm not going to work on you or even take any money or do anything else if you're not open to the idea that something in your life is needing to be changed and you're willing to do the work. Because it's not about me or what your wife or husband wants or your kids. It's what do you want right now? Classic example of that is I have a friend who, because here in Washington State, marijuana is legal, there's pot shops everywhere. I have a friend whose son got into the pot business when it was first starting out. He owns a couple shops now, makes millions of dollars every year. Like he's a very, very wealthy man, for the most part, pretty down to earth still. But his father, my friend, was like, "Oh, you should you should do ayahuasca, you should do this, you should do that. And he just looked at his father and he's like, yeah, I'm sure that would help me, but I don't want it to change who I am to where I got to where I am today, because then I would lose everything I have, and I don't want to do that right now. And he's like, I know I have things that need to be worked on. I know I could change. I know I could do this inner work. He's like, I don't want to. He's like, I am perfectly happy where I
Mhm.
am. They had an open conversation about it. That doesn't always happen. Usually it's leave me the hell alone, stop talking to me about this stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful when that can happen. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess before we start wrapping up, is there anything else you would like people to know? Any last parting advice? Oh, actually, I did want to ask, like, when you channel, just because I'm curious, like, are you channeling specific beings? Are you kind of doing like raw, where it's like a collective? Is it, a specific Arcturian or Palladian? I'm just curious how that works with the channeling piece.
Yeah. Yes. When I channel, sometimes I'm just channeling my higher self.
Hmm.
And other times, so I do two kinds of channeling. Sometimes I do what I call trance channeling,
Okay.
which is where I leave my body and I incorporate a spirit. I only incorporate enlightened beings. I don't incorporate any other beings. And that's just the agreement that I've made with what I'm doing. And when I do trance channeling, I channel different collectives. I channel the Divine Mother Collective, which is a group of Divine Mother frequencies, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, all of those, Sophia, all of that frequency. And I also channel Yeshua or the Christ
Mhm.
energy. I channel a Pleiadian collective called Arya as well. And I channel an archangelic group council called Emmanuel. And I'm still channeling new beings sometimes. So this is like a work in progress because often I will just sit and ask, is there an ascended being that would like to come through me for this person or this place or this land? And then I see what happens. So it's sort of a work in progress.
And- oh, go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to
Well,
interrupt.
that's okay. I'm just going to say that I don't always trance channel. Sometimes I do what I call conscious channeling. This is all just kind of how it happens. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I stay in my body and I telepathically receive the message of these groups and these beings or my higher self, and then I translate that to the client or the person. And it kind of just depends on who shows up and what's needed in that moment or for that day. So,
Okay. And I guess a couple questions on that. With you said you channel the Divine Mother, like the group of the mothers. Is there like a group of Divine Fathers?
there is a group of divine fathers. I have not channeled that before. Yeah,
Hmm.
they haven't come through me before, but I love that you asked that because now I feel like I would like to ask them if they would like to come through me.
Because I'm just curious, because
Yeah.
I had a conversation, I think a couple interviews ago. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it should be. But we were talking about how, like, divine masculine has gotten kind of corrupted over the years with toxic masculinity. And there's nothing wrong with masculinity itself. It's just how it's been used and abused in the past hundreds of years at this point. And, there's all this talk about the divine feminine and how we need to bring it in, which is true. I'm not arguing that. But then, like, the divine masculine just kind of gets pushed to the side, and well, we need that too. We need to bring both together, not only within ourselves, but within our society and in the world. And I think by having true harmony and partnership between both would fix a lot of our problems. And that's why I was just curious. Well, if there's a divine group of mothers, then would there be one of fathers? And I would be curious what type of messages they would bring to the table
Mm.
versus what the mothers would. And
Yes, I feel that is deeply needed on the planet. We really need to uplift and well, in general, uplift the masculine, support the masculine in reclaiming its divinity and bring through the divine masculine. Absolutely 100%. We need that equally. And I don't know, Jeremy, are you going to channel? Might this be a path? Are you, do you have any interest in the
I've
divine fathers?
never tried it, but maybe. I don't
Okay, might be onto something here. I'll keep you posted if they come through me sometime. I'll reach out and let you know.
And then with the other groups that you talk to, so I've had some other people on. I've had like Dean Graves on and some
Mhm.
other folks who work with the channels and get messages. Do you get messages for like what's to come for everyone, or is it really strictly when you're working with clients
Mhm.
and what they need? And there's no right or wrong. I'm just curious. I'm not.
Yeah, it seems to be that my channeling is focused on, that's right, more personally
Hmm.
people's healing and awakening, and what helps either a group or an individual awaken. My guides do come to me and give me more of a brushstroke overview of what's coming. Usually it's portals and vibrations and activations and periods of time and earth changes. I do get that. But honestly, that's not my focus
Yeah,
because I call that phenomena. And I'm more interested in helping all of us to witness the phenomena, but not get caught in it,
yeah,
and step back and embody the vast awakening and spirit that we are. And from that presence, because the world is always changing. And so I guess because my work is more about what I call the absolute, bringing people into the absolute presence of the divine self, the God self, I tend to receive through my guides more of that than the details of future. I know most people want to really know what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Yeah.
yeah. But I also feel that the stuff that's coming out, it'd be nice if it's true, but at the same token, I wonder if we're putting too much stake into it, where we're not doing the work because we're waiting on someone to save us. Like for lack of a better word, it's oh the alien galactic council is going to come down and stop everything, and then we're going to move to 5D and everything's going to be better. I mean, maybe that's true, but at the same time, why would they want to come and help us if we're not helping ourselves? If we're not working on ourselves? Why are we trying to be dependent on some external force to come in and fix everything when we're not willing to do that work ourselves? It's like why would I go to a really, really dangerous neighborhood to try to fix everyone or save everyone if they're not even open to it? They don't want to have negotiations. These two gangs are fighting. No one in the gang wants to have negotiations or even talk about, trying to have peace. Why should I come down and try to force that? As a random example, but kind of the similar thing. And I just feel sometimes we get too hung up on, because you see it on YouTube, 2026 is going to change everything. 2027 is when they're going to come. 2032, I mean, and there are prophecies, I've mentioned them on here before, but I also believe change is slow. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in a couple years. It's going to take time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have two thoughts about this. One
Hmm?
is they're already here. It's just that when we shift our vibration and our consciousness to be open to ETs, ascended beings, they're right here. They're available in another dimension of reality. We just have to open our vibration to that. So I would say they're already here. We like you said, the focus is on ourselves, empowering ourselves, waking up to our true nature. And I guess the passion for me is awakening people to that, no matter what happens in the world, not to be dependent on that,
Yeah.
be free. And when we realize and embody ourselves beyond the ego, beyond the mind, and we rest in that, what I call the deeper silence, and we dissolve into presence, we we are everything. It doesn't matter what happens or doesn't happen. We remember who we really are, and that's where the juice is for me, the
Mm.
passion. That's what I want to support people, because that's where I found the peace to be the highest, most incredible bliss and peace. And so I guess that's what I really want to support through my channeling as well as my healing work on the planet.
Oh, yeah. And I think that makes perfect sense. And I do believe, because, through things like channeling, through other mediums and people who can talk to them, like they are here helping in a different way, but it's not the classic spaceship come down, take away all the nuclear weapons, and now we will all have peace. Because if honestly that happened, it's going to get even crazier. Like to see spaceships come in, everyone's going to think Independence Day, because that's how our movies have been reflecting it. It's not going to be this instantaneous love and light. It's going to be chaos, and but doing things this way where they can still assist, either working through you or somebody else and helping people. Like they're here helping. It's just a different way of doing it.
That's exactly true. That's right. And I think it comes down to being in love instead of fear,
Hmm.
period.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Dean Graves says, like, we need to get into service of self. When we get into that mindset and everybody's there, things will
Yes.
shift.
Yes. I love it. Yeah. That's right.
So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
a good place to wrap up. Looking at the time too. Do you have any last parting words you want to tell anybody, or any last? It's been a lot of suggestions and good conversations, but is there anything else you want people to know? And then let them know where they can find you, and I'll have all the links in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I just want to thank you all for listening. And I want to support all of you in listening to your inner truth, what rings true for you. That's all that matters, is what's true for you. And you know what that is, the barometer inside of you that you really can trust yourself. And if you feel called to read my book for inspiration, First Light, if you'd like to be inspired of how to heal or move through any hardship and how to awaken more deeply, I would love for you to join me on that journey of First Light. And if you'd like to, I have a ton of free resources on my website, which is my name, isalaramarie.com. And there are so many ways you could, contact me or work with me, just a lot of free resourcing, YouTube videos on there. I have lots of free offerings, so feel free to connect with me. I would love that. Love to have any of you.
Nice. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
appreciate your time today. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did as well.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you for the work that you're doing, Jeremy, in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if something our guests shared resonated with you, connect out to them. That's what these stories are here for. And if you're looking for deeper healing or support, you can always find me at pnwshamanichealing.com. See you in the next episode.